Well, hello, Bravites. Welcome to another edition of Movie Reviews with yours truly, Toya. And I'm back today to discuss Candyman with you. If you have not seen the movie yet, I want to say that there should be a disclaimer that there might be some spoilers in this review. So if you haven't seen it, you might want to go check it out first and then come back, or however you want to do it. I just want to let you know there will be spoilers. But thank you guys for staying with me. I know it's been a while since I've come to you with a live video, and it's been a while since everything in the world has just been haywire and hectic. There's been so much that has happened. I have put up some videos about the Art Institute of Chicago, about Time Out Market, different things like that, but I have not had a live video in a while. So I do appreciate you all who are still here with me. I do ask you to share, like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. Make sure that you view the videos and let me know if you're getting something out of them. But again, I appreciate you all for being here. And we're going to jump right in. So today we're talking about Candyman. And that's a movie that was shot here in Chicago. Well, I'm not sure. Don't misquote me. I'm not sure exactly if it was shot here in Chicago, but it's set in Chicago. And the original was as well. So the original came out in about 92. I want to say I was in maybe first or second grade, second or third grade at the time. And then there were a couple more that came out after that. And Candyman is known for being like super scary character. One of the only black horror film characters that we have. But we'll get into that. It was set in Cabrini Greens, which is a project here in Chicago. It's since been torn down, super gentrified, which they did talk about in the movie. I can appreciate that because they kept it very real with that. Gave us some information, so to speak, on redlining. Not really, they didn't really mention redlining specifically, but that's what it was. And so we can appreciate the movie for many different reasons, right? We have Jordan Peele behind it with Monkey Paw Productions. We have Nia DaCosta, who was the director of the film. All of that came together beautifully. It was like a melting pot of blackness, black excellence, right? So I can appreciate it for that. Also, I don't know what it is about us, but we love being scared. So everybody flocks to the movie theaters to be scared out of their wits. And that's why we wanted to go see it. Now, people in my age group, being a millennial or even a generation before us, they remember Candyman as something that you don't play with. So if you have a mirror in front of you, you're not going to say his name 5 times. And that's what the whole tagline of the movie is. Say my name. Say his name. I dare you. And so we're not going to do that. I don't care. Even right now, I know it's a movie, but I don't care. Not doing it. But I just appreciate you all for being here. We want to jump right in. So like I said, the movie was set in Chicago. So when you see the opening sequence, there's this tour basically of the downtown skyline. You see a very misty, foggy night sky. It's kind of creepy. You see the Sears Tower, Harold Washington Library, different buildings downtown that you may recognize from the top. I don't think they could do the whole skyline because it's so different now. Then, the skyline in Chicago is constantly changing. They're constantly building. It's always under construction. So it would be a little inaccurate from year to year if they posted the totality of the skyline, right? But there are some pieces that are staples in Chicago. Like I said, like the Sears Tower or Willis Tower or whatever name it has now. It's always going to be Sears Tower to me. We have Marina Towers that were in the movie, which are the buildings that look like corn on the cob. So things like that. They remain the same, so we recognize them as Chicago staples. So they went through that, and they went through the story basically of how we got to Candyman. So we have some representation in the movie from the LGBTQ community. And one of the main characters, she's an art dealer. Her boyfriend is the artist, and he's the antagonist in the movie. He's a painter. And so you see my painting here today is an homage to the movie. So I wanted to include my own little thing. But you see them come together in the movie and just have like a family night. And her brother, who is gay, comes over with his boyfriend and decides to have a scary story night. The sister isn't with it. He doesn't care. He tells the story anyway. And he introduces us all to Candyman. And they have a spin on the story where they tell the story about Helen and how she went to the projects and They thought she stole a baby, and the community came together and rallied together to get the baby away from her and save the baby and all of this. But it was still very eerie because Helen was someone who was kind of researching the community, the projects, if you will, the ghetto. And she kind of snapped out one day and went crazy. And so that's how she got to even stealing a baby and all of this. Okay. And so when they tell this story, the artist in the movie, he needs some type of inspiration. The art dealers or the popular artists around town are saying, we need some more creativity from you. The South Side is overdone. Everybody goes to the hood looking for inspiration. That's overdone. So we need something new from you, something that is going to spark some conversation. And he delves into Candyman. So he goes to Cabrini Green, or what used to be Cabrini Green, and he starts taking a look around. And he notices that, the area is a little bit run down. It's been gentrified from what we remember back in the day. So the high-rise projects are torn down. They are no more. And now you have these new up-and-coming condos and homes in the area and like a few remaining row houses in the area. So he goes, and one of the row houses belongs to a young man in the movie who goes to do his laundry one day. When he takes the laundry down into the basement, he notices a hole in the wall. He comes out of the laundry room and a piece of candy flies out of the hole. Instead of like running off, as I would have done, he stays there and waits. And the man who is Candyman, or presumed to be Candyman, comes out of the wall. They called him Candyman because he used to pass out candy to the kids. Somehow a razor blade got into a piece of candy of a little white girl. And the police are looking for him because they're like, he must have done it. He's the only one who passes out candy in the area. And so when he comes out of the wall, the little boy doesn't run, but he does scream. The police are sitting outside of the building. They hear him scream. They come charging in, running upstairs, downstairs, everywhere, looking for this man or wherever the scream came from. So when they get to the basement, the little boy is leaving. He goes up and takes the candy from Candyman. He doesn't do anything to him. But the little boy goes to walk out. All of a sudden, the police are charging down the stairs. So they all come in. There were two at first, two police sitting outside. All of a sudden, there's an army of police running in the building. I guess they call for backup, and they charge at the Candyman, beat him relentlessly, and kill him. And so now it is believed that the man that comes to haunt you as the Candyman was the man that was in the wall, who actually, it turns out, was not the one who put the razor blade in the candy, but he was killed by the police. So every time anyone summons Candyman, he shows up. The thing about that is you can't see him with your bare eyes. You have to be looking into a mirror in order to see him. And so he comes, and this spirit of the Candyman comes and kills you with his hook hand and, kind of viciously attacks whomever calls him up. That's all fine and good. That's kind of what we remember from the movie. Very scary, some stuff that'll make you be like, what the heck is going on, right? Where this movie takes a turn is it turns into what I call a Black trauma film. And this is where I take issue because, first of all, you have to be in a mood for Black trauma, I think. We do live it every day. It's part of our everyday lives. You can't run from it. You can't hide from it. But escapism is part of art, right? So we watch TV, we watch movies to get away from everyday life so that we can have some reprieve, something that'll take us away from the everyday. Well, that's not what we got with this movie. Eventually it comes out that the Candyman comes back pretty much to pay vengeance to those who kills him, right? So we got the police officers who killed this man, but he's not necessarily coming for police officers. He's coming for whomever calls his name. The issue I have with this is that we say her name after anyone is victimized or brutalized by the police or anything like that. And so by you saying say their name and then it summons their spirit to come and kill you, it's going to make people not say their names, which will make the people who were killed or victimized forgettable after a while. You're not going to want to say their name because why would I want to bring that upon myself? I'd just rather forget it, leave them where they are. That'd be the end of the story. And that's where I take issue with the movie because, like I said, I wasn't in for a black trauma film. And then they have all these different characters who over time, even back in the 30s, were attacked by lynch mobs and wrongfully accused and beaten and murdered and maimed and tortured to death, for no reason at all besides being black, right? Somehow they all come back with a hook on their head and they become Candymen. And they're the ones who come back and kill people. This would make sense to me if they only came back and killed maybe white people who victimized them, or killed the people who, had something to do with their vicious murders and attacks, who wrongfully accused them. That is not the case. We saw the Candyman kill 5 girls at a high school. We saw him kill a little black girl. We saw him kill, people who just said his name, and it didn't make sense to tie it into black trauma or vengeance on behalf of those who were brutalized or victimized without there being some sensible reason or connection. And that piece was missing for me. One of the main characters in the movie was Burke, and he was a laundromat owner. And he's the one who kind of explained in a little more detail to the artist, Anthony, what the Candyman was. Now, when Anthony was going to check out the story of Candyman, taking pictures and all of this, he gets stung by a bee. Over time, his hand gets progressively worse. He gets a wound that is unmanageable. His arm starts to change color. His hand starts to die. His fingernail comes off at some point. Never goes to the doctor, right? Eventually he does, but we're thinking like, okay, this is where he's gonna have to have a hook to replace his hand, and maybe he's turning into the Candyman because he was stung by a bee, which is Candyman's whole essence, right? The bees coming out of the mouth, the bees in the eye, the bees in his chest, the honey, all of that. That doesn't happen. And so it's like, well, what was the point of that? And it comes back to be that the guy, Anthony, was the baby that the woman Helen stole from the projects. But it turns out that Candyman actually took the baby and Helen returned him to the mother. So she saved him and tried to sacrifice herself to get rid of the Candyman, but it didn't go that way. So all of this kind of is, the mark is being missed in so many directions that it's like, what exactly is the goal of the story here? It turns out that the man, Burke, who owns the laundromat, kind of wants to turn Anthony into the Candyman. So he cuts his arm off as his girlfriend watches to replace his hand with a hook. Anthony is kind of paralyzed. Now, we've seen this before in, what is the movie? Get Out, where black people are kind of just paralyzed and stuck, but there are tears falling from their eyes. They can't help what's happening to them. The reason I have a problem with this is because, again, just like with Queen and Slim, it comes back to black people initiating the attack on one another. And I know that happens every day. But in this instance, where the victimization originated with white mobs, with police officers, with unjust killings, why then would you use a black man to initiate another black man into a life where he would have to die and ultimately become a Candyman? Because like I said, there were so many different variations of Candyman that Anthony had uncovered, that Burke had told him about, that he started to kind of deal with, and they were all kind of being channeled through him. So eventually Anthony didn't even see his own reflection in the mirror. He would see the Candyman when he looked in the mirror. And so there were so many things going on that, the dynamic of the true Candyman movie got lost. Like, you didn't know what was happening here. Like, who are we even talking about? What's happening? How is this looping around? And then aside from that, the girlfriend of Anthony, that was the art dealer that he lived with, that watched him be kind of attacked by this man, Burke, she had a father who was also a painter. And the father one day jumped out of the window and killed himself for no reason, or they never explained the reason. They just showed in a dream that that's what happened. And she woke up in a cold sweat, wanted to talk about it to Anthony. Anthony told her he had had a bad dream too. Neither one of them discusses the dream with each other. So we really don't know what Anthony dreamed that night. And we really don't get any other dealings with her father. Aside from the fact that her brother says, Mom wants to get rid of Dad's stuff. We need to clear out the storage. And she kind of smacks her lips and doesn't really want to deal with it, but she knows it's something that she has to get to. So in my mind, I'm going, okay, they're going to go get the father's paintings out of the storage room, right? And they're going to be the same things that Anthony has been painting and covering, which goes over all the different stories of the Candymen over time that have been victimized. And maybe that'll be a connection where she'll go, okay, oh my God, Anthony was right. You know, we got to do something. This Candyman thing has been plaguing my family. Now it's on my boyfriend. That doesn't happen. Never really revisits anything with the father's painting, the storage room, or anything. So that part is left undone. So we get to the ending where Anthony's kind of being sacrificed up or offered up by the guy Burke to become a Candyman. The girlfriend was taped. Burke had knocked her out, taped her hands up with electrical tape. Somehow, as he's doing his whole villainous talk, she finds a pen from somewhere, is able to free herself, and runs away. He chases her down through the alley. She comes up through the back of the church, comes up outside, runs around the front, goes back into an abandoned building. Who does this? No one does this. Somehow he knows exactly which door she goes into, and comes behind her. She tries to attack him with something to kill him. It's too heavy for her. She can't swing it. She ends up stabbing him to death with a pen. All of a sudden, now Anthony, who couldn't speak before when his arm was getting cut off, is standing at the door and says, I think he's dead now. He comes in with the hook on his arm that Burke had put on his arm, but he kind of passes out from pain and exhaustion. She catches him. All of a sudden, there are police lights. So the police know exactly, oddly, where to stop to come into where they are. So she pleads with them for help. Oh my God, please help me. My boyfriend. The police come in. No questions asked. Shoot him up. Shoot Anthony up. Kill him. And put her into the back of the car handcuffed and give her kind of a plea deal of either you can say that you were working with us and that, you know, you helped us capture him. We've been looking for him, or you can go down as an accomplice. She asks to see herself in the mirror, and then she'll say anything the police wanted her to say. He lets her see herself in the mirror. She starts to summon Candyman, of course. So Anthony comes out as the Candyman spirit, kills all the police officers outside of the car, lets him out of the car. He runs off. He eventually catches up with him and kills him. She's still in handcuffs. And that's kind of how the movie ends, with the original Candyman coming back, transforming from Anthony into the original Candyman and saying, tell them this is our story, and tell them about why we do this, and da 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 da. Afterwards, there are all these paper puppet scenarios of Black men being victimized, brutalized, killed, murdered, maimed, all of this from a child on up, simply for being Black. And that explains why they all come back as the Candymen. And so that's the movie in a nutshell. I have so many issues with this that I don't even know where to start. First of all, like I said, the Black trauma of it all, I'm not sure needed to be addressed in this way, because there's no way to make it seem as though the Candymen do this for vengeance of the souls that were lost in such a vicious way in racial injustice, right? There's no rhyme or reason to it. You know, a Black woman could call Candyman and he would come and kill her. In this scenario, he didn't kill his girlfriend, but usually any other scenario, she would have been dead too. This is my thing too with that. You have this Black character killing a bunch of police. So let's say people want to be Candyman for Halloween or whatever. With the climate of things right now, you don't want to initiate anything that makes it seem like I want to identify myself with a cop killer. Now we have our classic horror hero who's a cop killer. Yes, everyone can get away with it. We cannot. So we have to be careful with what we put out. Of course, you can do whatever with art. You can say it's just a movie or what have you, but we can't then dictate what happens, what fallout comes after that, right? So we need to be careful with that. We also need to be careful with how we are portraying our characters, the messages that we're trying to send. It's just like it's not coming together well. And so what we want to do is make sure that when we go see movies like this, we think it through. I don't know if they expect us to think it through or to connect all of the dots or what have you, but someone like myself, I'm critiquing the whole film the moment I sit down. Like I said, I noticed that the production companies, their names were coming up backwards. It's just so many things that were not really explained. It's just supposed to be eerie, and I get it. But there are so many instances in this movie where I don't think that what did happen needed to happen. And it just didn't make sense to me at all to turn Candyman into this vengeful, renegade that went around, kind of making sure that people knew that they were being killed because black men were killed by white men or what have you like that. It just did not make sense at all. It didn't need to go that way. And even at the end with his girlfriend, she was handcuffed. But police cars are mic'd. If they saw that she summoned this Candyman spirit that ended up killing all these cops, guess what? Now she's an accomplice and she's going down too. So nobody wins in this kind of scenario. It wasn't there for me. So we left the theater feeling kind of unsettled, kind of upset. It took a while for us to shake it because it wasn't so much that we were afraid. It was that we were basically in a place where we didn't know what the hell was going on. So we have to be careful with what we put out, the things that we say in movies, the things that we do in these movies, and just make sure that the message overall remains on trend. And this was not on trend with the Candyman brand. I don't even know how it got past the gate, to be honest. Like I said, Nia DaCosta did a great job with directing. It wasn't so much the direction of the movie, it was more so the writing. I'm not sure how it got off track that way, but it certainly, for me, got off track. So my recommendation would be 2 spotlights. Simply because we got to see another one of our favorite characters come back to the silver screen. It was something that, or to the big screen, sorry. It was something that we've been looking forward to, but it just did not come together in the way that it should have. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm happy to have a dialogue with you. I'll respond to your comments and we can go from there. But overall, in my mind, the movie was a 2 out of 5 spotlights because it missed the mark in so many different ways. But again, like I said, if you want to see a black trauma film, you should be warned that you're going to see a black trauma film. But just like in Schitt's Creek, people love that show because you got to see a gay couple just living and thriving and being without it being a thing of them being gay. And I think that black people really want the same thing. We just want to see ourselves living and thriving and being without there being some traumatic experience attached to it or some overwhelmingly, unjust circumstances that we have to face in every single movie. But you feel free to let me know what you think. I thank you for taking the time to watch this review, and I hope you come back to see me real soon. All right, guys, that's all.